Greetings, Guardian Scholars. Welcome to week 13. After this week, we only have 2 more weeks of class and then the final exam. So let's go ahead and look at the week 13 module and see what's coming up. So on Monday, our Zoom class is going to focus on introducing Essay 4. So we'll look at the Essay 4 guidelines, and whatever time we have left, we'll focus in on preparing for MRL 8. And so the big thing on Metacognitive Reading Log 8 this week is that you want to pick chapter 10 or 11 based on which of the memoirs you've read and what you think is useful. And so I have kind of a short synopsis of chapter 10 and chapter 11 here. We are going to be skipping chapter 12. We won't be reading 12. It's not as relevant to the books. So chapter 10 is focused on parenting for grit and from pages 119 to 122. And what's interesting about it is that it does focus on the idea of wise parenting, but she talks about the fact that the role of the wise parent is not always by the biological parents. It could be coaches, teachers, even siblings, and she does give an example of siblings. So for instance, for Etched in Sand, Parenting for Grit might be a really good choice. The Playing Fields of Grit, which is chapter 11, focuses on extracurricular activities like sports and music and the ways that those help people grow grit and the importance of choosing and following through. And so, for instance, if you're looking at beating the system or also the debtor in prison, in one, it focuses a lot on basketball, and the other focuses a lot on football and the role that that had in those two memoir authors' lives. So if you're doing option B, this might be the better choice. But then Parenting for Grit could also be relevant for both of those. So I always have the as you read, and then the after you read is the metacognitive log. So just a reminder, you don't have to use the metacognitive log form, but you do need to do each of the parts of it, right? So it's been a little while since we've done one. You want the 2 golden lines, the 8-word summary, and then a 100-word hot take. So you can just type that into the text box, or you can download this and whatever is, or you can even do it by hand if you prefer. So just a reminder on that. I'm going to try to get us back to the module. Okay. All right, so that's one of the essential key assignments for this week. We have our weekly reflective journal, which is going to focus more on the idea of editing and proofreading. I don't like people to focus on this too much at the beginning of the semester because I want people to focus on getting ideas, on organization, on thesis statements, topic sentences, transitions, intros, and conclusions, and not to obsess over grammar. But that doesn't mean that grammar isn't important. And so as we close off the semester, I really want you to be thinking about what you've learned about editing, ways that you can become stronger editors and proofreaders and revisers of your own work. For Wednesday, we're going to be discussing the readings and connecting grit with the memoirs that you've read. So I'll probably be having us in small groups for this and really think about Essay 4 pre-writing, and so that you're prepared for the pre-write, which is due by Saturday. But again, always you can turn things in early, and especially if you're trying to get caught up, I highly recommend, I've said this all semester, it's more important for you to stay on top of what we're doing now. And then if you can finish the work that's due this week, then you can have a little bit of time to go back and maybe get caught up on things that were due for previous weeks. Now, for the conclusion of grit, I think it's valuable. I made it a 10-point extra credit activity. So you don't absolutely have to read chapter 13. What's kind of interesting about chapter 13 is she focuses on the idea that grit is important. She kind of summarizes a lot of what she argues about grit, answers a lot of questions that people have asked her about grit. But then she also argues that grit is not the only important thing, that character, kindness, right, honesty, things like those are also really important, and that we shouldn't think that grit is the only important thing. Even though, her whole book is about grit and her research is about grit, she thinks other things are important too, that character is important. I also have a support activity. Remember, if you're getting behind, focus on the 1A, but the comparing and contrasting activity is useful for Essay 4 because, in a sense, I want you to be comparing what Duckworth says in Grit to your book club memoir for Essay 4. And so, I think as we were writing, it's not really a comparison contrast essay, but it follows that kind of structure. And so I have a video that I made about this, and then you can answer the question. So it says, you're going to brainstorm 5 to 10 connections between Grit and the memoirs you're writing about. So you can kind of think of this as a pre-write. So even though it's a 91 activity, if you do this activity, it will help you write your Essay 4. And so I might even have you guys do this on Wednesday during class in your small group. And so that might be something useful for us to do. So I'll think about that. I'm saying this on the fly. Okay, and then in Reflective Journal 13 was about editing and proofreading, and the Writing Center activity this week is also proofreading. And then, as I said, last but not least, the Essay 4 pre-write is due. And we will be going over this, but I wanted to point out that for Essay 4, you may choose any pre-writing method: outlining, free writing, looping, clustering, mind mapping, or brainstorming. I do have outline templates. You can look at them here. I think I also have them here. Oh yeah, I have them in here as well. And so you can see that I have different outline templates. But again, the outline templates are not, you don't have to follow them. They're just there if it helps you. So if the outline template doesn't help you, just ignore it. Don't worry about it. I wanted to point out, I think, do I have a model essay here? I may not. Okay, I think I have the model essay listed somewhere else. So, but I do have a model essay from Essay 4 from the fall. And so that will also be kind of a good help for you as you're thinking about writing this paper. Last but not least is just a heads up for week 14, which is we're going to be doing our last of our benchmark conferences. And so if you sign up for next week's, then you get the times that you're more likely to want. And so I will go in and make sure that those are set up so that you can sign up, which I forgot last time, so I apologize. All right. I'm looking forward to meeting with you this week and working with you all.